Welcome to all. Today we will be discussing about the basics of heating, ventilation, air conditioning and refrigeration. It is a part of a profession called as MEP, Mechanical, Electrical and Plumbing. Mechanical, Electrical and Plumbing is another part of a broader concept called as building services. You know that buildings are a part of infrastructure. Infrastructure is a denote of the development of a society or a country. So if we are actually working in a profession called as building servicer, we are contributing to that society's development. So today we will be discussing about this HVAC and R. Now as I told you, the profession is called as building services. So when I say HVAC-R, I mean heating, ventilating, conditioning and refrigerating air inside a building. So moving to the expansion of HVAC-R, we have four letters: H for heating, V for ventilation, AC for air conditioning and R for refrigeration. So we'll move into the technical details. H stands for heating. Before I go into heating, let's understand what heat is. Heat is a form of energy, right? We all know that heat is a form of energy. We've learned that heat is the energy in transit. So what is heat or what is energy in transit? We require energy for doing anything. Einstein says that the universe is a form of energy or a collection of energy, nothing else. Energy forms the matter on which the universe is comprised of. So let's see what heat means. Heat is a form of energy, I told you. Heat is the energy in transit. That means if I want to move from here to this point, I require heat energy, right? Or any kind of energy. That movement energy can be termed as kinetic energy. So let's see what heat is. In Earth, we come across three states of matter: solid, liquid and gas. Let's consider a small collection of molecules which are under the state solid. So we have four molecules here. Four molecules are tightly packed together. They have a tight bond between them. Now, even though a solid molecule seems very stationary, and we know that every solid object has a definite shape and size, they are not actually in a state of stationary. They are actually moving. These solid molecules, even though they appear stationary, they have vibrational motion. So say this molecule begins to vibrate a little bit more than this molecule. So this has a better or a much higher vibrational energy. This energy will not be staying in this molecule. It will be transferred to the subsequent atom or molecule which is actually closer to it. And again this energy will be transferred to the next one and the next one and the next one, and it continues. This form of energy transmission is actually a form of heat transmission, which is known as conduction, which is one of the three methods of heat transmission. So this is called as the heat transfer method through solids. Now if I give a little bit more heat to a solid, for example, let's take the example of ice. Ice is a solid which comprises of solid water molecules. Now I can consider this as a cluster of 4 ice molecules or 4 water molecules which are in the state of ice. Now if I give heat to it and if I increase the temperature level of ice beyond 0 degrees Celsius, what happens is this will be converted to a state like this. The gap between all the molecules starts to increase. The reason for this, these molecules or these water molecules will absorb a threshold energy to break the tension or break the bond between them so that they can move in a finite distance. That's why this is in the state of liquid, this is in the state of solids, and liquids can flow because of this property. Since they have more heat energy, they have a property to flow in a finite distance, right? So we'll move on to the next one. The next state which we come across is called as gas or vapors. Okay, what happens is, say I try to heat up this liquid water into a higher temperature, say beyond 100 degrees Celsius at normal STP. Now what happens is, these molecules still have a little bit of bonding between them. When they absorb the heat energy that I am giving them, they will have enough energy to break even this bond and move into an infinite level of freedom. Now I can say that they are in a state of gas or they are in vapor state. These are the three states, and the important element in this one I have to consider is heat is giving them freedom to move from solid to liquid to gas. So heat is basically the energy in transmit. I can give heat to something so that I can change the state of them. Right? Now we'll move on to the building services or the practicality of heating in building services. When you say building services and heating in building services, I mean the heating of air inside the building, right? I'm going to give heat to air inside the building. So before I go into the technical details, let's discuss why we require heating inside a building. Or when do we require heating? Why or when we require heating? Right? The reason for heating inside a building. Obviously, a building is for the human beings that are going to be sitting inside the building. So if I say I require heating inside a building, that means I feel cold inside a building, right? So I am feeling cold inside a building and I need heat. So that I can feel comfortable, right? So I require heating when I'm feeling cold. Now consider a place in southern Indian territory like Kochi or Trivandrum or Tamil Nadu. We don't require heating because we are actually having a hotter climate outside our building normally at normal conditions. And then another example is a Middle Eastern country like Dubai or Abu Dhabi or Kuwait or Saudi Arabia. There also we are having a hotter atmosphere. Hence we don't really require a heating system inside our building. We require a cooling system, right? So where do we require heating? Obvious answer is we require heating in places where we have colder temperature on the outside, like a northern European country or a northern American country or even a southern Australian state, right? So we require heating when we have a colder climate outside. Now another thing that we have to consider when we are considering heating, say I am a place, I'm actually sitting in Cochin or Trivandrum or a Middle Eastern country. Now inside my room, I will be setting a temperature between, say, I have a temperature of 24 degrees Celsius set on my remote on my air conditioning machine, right? I feel comfortable sitting in this temperature, no problem at all, right? So, say I do the same thing for another person coming from a northern European country, say from France. Now, when he's sitting at 24 degrees Celsius, he will be feeling a little bit hot compared to what he actually needs, because the place he was born and brought up had a natural temperature less than 20 degrees Celsius. So because of it, he will be feeling much more comfortable in a lesser temperature, say 19 degrees Celsius. So, but as you can understand from this that my comfort temperature was 24 degrees Celsius and the person from northern European country, he had a temperature which is comfortable for him as 19 degrees Celsius. So I can term something called as a comfort temperature. There is something called as a comfort temperature. A comfort temperature is a temperature on which a person will feel comfortable, right? Now, when I am feeling cold, when I am sitting inside a room and I am feeling cold, that means the room temperature is less than the comfort temperature. So when do we require heating? We require heating when the room temperature inside the building is less than the comfort temperature of the person sitting inside. But as I told you, my comfort temperature may not be same as the comfort temperature of another person. It's a relative term. So because of it, I can never tell a particular person will be having this particular comfort temperature. So because of it, I have a comfort temperature range normally between 22 degrees Celsius to 26.5 degrees Celsius, on which I do my air conditioning systems. I design my systems according to this range of temperature, which is known as the comfort temperature level. So I require heating when the room temperature is less than my particular comfort temperature level, right? That is the basic idea of heating and where or when do we require heating. Now we'll move on. Moving on, we'll go into types of heating systems. So if I want to heat up the room air, I require a source of heat, right? A heat source is always required to heat up the room. So depending upon the heat source, I can classify heating systems into basically three. The first one is the most simplest one, which is known as an electrical heater or electric heater. In other words, a strip heater. So we'll move on to the first type of heating systems, which is called as a strip heater or a strip heating system. This is an electric heater where we have a coil which is made out of a highly resistive conductor. Okay. Now we know that when electricity passes through any conductor, say when you have a coil of a conductor like this, and when electricity passes through that coil, in most cases we know that some of the electricity or electrical energy will be converted to another form of energy. That is what happens when electricity or electrical energy passes through a resistance. Now, for example, if you have a coil of tungsten, most of the electrical energy will be converted to light energy. That's why we have incandescent bulbs. Similarly, there is another material called as nichrome. Nichrome is an alloy of nickel and chromium. Now what happens when electricity passes through nichrome is that most of the electrical energy passing through nichrome coil will be converted to heat energy. Now when electricity passes through it, it will be glowing and it will be red hot. That means it's having a lot of heat energy coming out of it. Now what we can do is, we can harness this heat energy and use it to heat up the room air. For this, we will use a simple fan mechanism. I have a fan which can be an axial fan or a centrifugal blower fan, which will suck all the cold air from the room and pass it over my heating coil, thereby heating up the room, and you have hot air coming out of the coil, which is actually becoming hot because of the electrical energy which is passing through the coil and which is getting converted to heat energy. This is the simple system called as a strip heater. Right. Now we'll learn about that later on our sessions. Now this is actually all that you need for the basics. Now we'll move on to the second type of heating system. And the second type of heating system is called as a heat pump, or in other words it's called as a reverse VCR cycle. Now if I want to explain what this is, I need to explain what a VCR cycle is. VCR cycle, the full form is a vapor compression refrigeration cycle. Now I can't tell you what a heat pump is unless I explain about VCR cycle, but in simple words, VCR cycle is the working principle of a refrigerator that you have inside your home. Now refrigeration, what it does is, it cools down the space inside the refrigerator. There is a volume of air inside and it can cool it down. But if you have seen a refrigerator, you might know that at the back of the refrigerator there is a heating coil which is always producing heat. That heat is actually the heat which is being taken out of the volume of air which is inside your refrigerator. Now what I can do here is just reverse the refrigerating purpose. So what happens is, the heating will be happening inside the refrigerator, whereas the cooling will be happening outside the refrigerator. This is exactly known as a heat pump. I reverse the VCR cycle or a refrigerating cycle, thereby I can achieve a heating effect. This I can do using a heat pump system, which is actually not very common, but still you have equipments used for this purpose, whereas you can actually have a refrigerating system that you can reverse it into a heat pump, right? So we'll discuss that later on. That's about the basics of it. We'll move on to third type of heating system. The third type of system is called as a boiler system. Right. Now what is a boiler? A boiler is simply a pressure vessel which can be depicted like this. A pressure vessel which is having liquid water inside. Now using some kind of heat source, which could be normally a fuel burning under it, and that fuel's heat energy which is being generated as it burns will be converted, or which will be transferred to the liquid water, where I can create high pressure superheated steam. And this high pressure superheated steam can be transferred directly into a building where you have different rooms, and I can use this heat energy to heat up the room inside. Now what happens here is, the coil that is inside the room will be normally made out of a material known as copper. You already know about copper. Copper has the property that it's very conductive, both in electrically and thermally. So what happens is, when hot steam passes through copper coil, that steam will actually heat up the copper coil. Now using this hot copper coil inside the building and a fan like this, I can pass cold air over this, and similar to a strip heater, the cold air as it comes out will be hot. This is actually the working of a boiler system, right? This is a very efficient system, and for very large buildings, a boiler system is normally used. This is normally used for centralized heating systems, right? So, but there is actually a problem here. When we transport high pressure, high temperature steam throughout a building, there is a risk of it leaking out. Okay, that is a risk we don't really want to take. So because of it, we can actually go for another system where instead of transferring steam, we can transfer normal water. Now water we can transfer through any distance using a small pump. So what we do is, when we have steam, we take the steam through something called as a heat exchanger. The working of a heat exchanger is simply to pass heat from one medium to another medium. I have one medium here which is superheated steam. In the heat exchanger, I have another medium inside which is basically water or liquid water, as you can see. So when liquid goes inside the heat exchanger and comes out, because of the high temperature steam inside it, it becomes hot also. But it doesn't have to heat up more than 100 degrees Celsius. So the liquid water still remains liquid. Because of it, using a small pump or a pump of sufficient capacity, we can transfer this water through how many distance that we want. That means inside the building, how many distance or how many meters or how many feet of piping that we require, we can just transfer the water through a pump. So there is no problem or there is no risk of leakage inside a building because of the high pressure steam. This is the working, this is the system that is normally employed because it's much more reliable than transferring steam. Right. So these are the three types of heating systems that we are going to be learning about, and that's about enough about heating. So we'll move on to the second letter in HVAC and R, which is V, that stands for ventilation.